I'm Regis Cochefort, the head of art at the Paul Hamlyn Foundation. The Paul Hamlyn Foundation is one of the 10 largest independent grant-making foundations in the UK. We support education and learning, social justice and the arts. We also have a program in India, which is quite independent. We work in two ways. We support applications made to us through the Open Grants scheme, and we spend about £3 million a year on that. And we also identify issues which we find particularly interesting and on which we feel we could have some impact. Often issues that have emerged through the work we found in Open Grants. And we then devise what might be action research or what might be a way of exploring answers to the problems we've identified. And that's what we call special initiatives. So we either make grants for programs of work or we run our own projects. Our relationship with Battersea Arts Centre has actually spanned both these approaches, because we started by supporting a salary in the engagement and learning team, and we also subsequently supported Battersea Arts Centre, more importantly David Jubb, through one of our special initiatives called the Breakthrough Fund. And it's through this grant that we were involved in playgrounding. The Breakthrough Fund was started and ran for an initial 3 years as a sort of blue sky thinking dream fund, where we were interested in identifying through nominations, so we had a group of nominators, individuals who might have reached a glass ceilings or wanting to develop their practice and needed a leg up. So it's a sort of fast-tracking device, really. And we wanted to hear about people's visions, and when the visions was compelling, we wanted to back these visions. What's unusual for us and what was interesting in the setting up of the Breakthrough Fund is the moment of risk was sooner. It was at the moment at which we believed in that vision. We were not asking, and we are not asking, for fully developed proposals with deliverables, target outcomes, very specific timelines, and incredibly precise budgets. What we wanted to see is we wanted to feel that the individuals we were meeting and the individuals we were considering backing had what it took to make something happen. Did they have it in them? Was their track record about making things happen? Did we feel that they could make that difference? And how could our support enable them to realize their vision? So it's the decisions were made on two levels, on the ideas and on what we felt was the ability of the individual to realize that idea. And part of the questioning was also trying to understand what kind of hurdles, what could go wrong at the moment of application. But once the commitment was made, it was just a question of supporting these processes and letting them unfold at their own rhythm. So it is quite different from the rest of the grant making that we might do as an organization. Right. At the time where David Jubb was nominated for the Breakthrough Fund, we felt we knew him a bit amongst the program committee and the selection panel, and we felt we knew the organization through the grants that we were making to support the salary of the head of learning, or of the then head of learning. I think what felt very novel, arresting, interesting was to kind of put the notion of a capital project on its head and to approach a rebuilding of a building or an improvement or sort of, brick and mortar based not just on what the spaces had to look like and how they would be used, but how they felt. And we felt it was rather it was like a guerrilla approach to a lottery-funded capital project, and that really interested us on paper. The Breakthrough Fund application is both deceptively simple and incredibly complex because we ask for 3 one-page long essays. 1 is what is your idea, 2 is why, and 3 is what could go wrong. So it's both extraordinarily pithy and very, very, very complex to achieve because you need to articulate what sometimes might not be fully formed, or articulate something which is perhaps quite complex and you need to simplify it. I think what was very interesting in reading what David had to write is that there was it made quite a compelling argument for at least meeting him to find out more about what this sort of new approach to a building project could be. And whilst he was nominated on his own, he also chose to approach the Breakthrough Fund relationship with David Micklem, who at the time was working at Battersea Arts Centre and became another director of the organisation. So I think there was also something interesting in David and David having a kind of dialogue as part of this application process and as part of the interview for the application. So that was arresting at the moment of decision. What's different about the Battersea approach, which is resulting in builders coming in and changing physical spaces too, is the fact that 1, it's reflecting an interest in the built environment, and Howard Tompkins are incredibly good architects who build very beautiful and fit for purpose buildings, but actually it's not about building a building for pride. It's not about having an enormous new mausoleum for all the wrong reasons. So I think it's fascinating to think about architects and a capital project that is there in a kind of nearly underground fashion, and I'm sure that there will be statements that we see when the work progresses that will be recognizable and will be visible signs of refurbishment, but that's not what the point is. This is not a vanity project. I think the approach to playgrounding, and the jury is still out as to whether it will have the impact that it might, but could be really impactful in enabling people to think about refurbishment, taking existing spaces and trying to think about how these spaces might be used in the future in a rather literal and intellectual way, not just about the visible plastering skin deep size of the buildings. And I think if that's a legacy that works, that would be an extraordinary achievement.